You're about to watch a great interview on TYT Interviews. If you want to watch them live, members are the only ones who get to do that. tytnetwork.com/join. Become a member, enjoy the interviews as they happen. All right, we got a fascinating interview for you guys today. His name is Noah Kerner. He's the CEO at Acorns. But wait till you get a load of all the different things he's done in his life. Noah, welcome, first of all, to the Young Turks.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. We're going to talk about Acorns, how that helps millennials and everybody else, and what it is in a sec. But you've led a trippy life. So I want to talk about that a little bit first.
Yeah.
So before we even get to that, can I ask you, how old are you? Because you've now led 17 or 28 companies?
32 companies.
Okay, all right.
I'm older than I look. Yeah.
I don't know, you look really young. You look like you're in your 30s.
Yeah.
And I see on your resume 700 companies that you've run.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you were a DJ for Jennifer Lopez?
I was. As a kid, so I was 14 when I got turntables. And I grew up in the East Village in New York City, and you know, it was a hip hop time. And I was obsessed with that culture. And I just I knew I had friends who started getting into it, and it wasn't a trendy thing at the time. It was really hip hop culture, which I always recognized I was an outsider to, but I thought it was really interesting. And my dad got me turntables when I was 14. I locked myself in my bedroom for 2 years and just started practicing and practicing and practicing. And before I performed anywhere publicly for anyone, including my friends who thought I was going to be terrible, I wanted to be great. So it was 2 years. It was 700 some odd days every night till 4 in the morning.
Wow.
Of practicing,
Okay, so I get it now. That's how you get to be good at something.
Right, you do the work.
Right. And so did you know Jenny from the block? Or how did you meet J-Lo?
Well, so I was doing nightclubs in New York City early, as a young, 16, started doing that kind of stuff. I started working with some artists, but started by doing their parties and events. And then I did a few events for Jennifer, and then they asked me to be her DJ in her band. So by the way, the band was the best musicians in the world. So it was the musical director for Michael Jackson and Madonna was the keyboard player. The drummer was from Earth, Wind and Fire. The bass player Stevie Wonder. It was these incredible. And then so this Jewish kid, white Jewish kid from the East Village comes into the rehearsal studio, and I was very quiet. I recognized I was walking into a room with all these legendary people, and I had my little bag of records. And they were practicing and, went to the turntables really quietly, set it up. And the drummer was playing a little bit. And I just quietly started cutting, over the drums. And they were like, oh, who's this kid?
Right.
And then we just started. And that was the beginning of it.
And how old were you then?
22.
You're 22 and you walk into this Hall of Fame situation. Oh, that's I know we're over focusing on this, but I'm fascinated. I've always wanted to ask. I don't even understand DJing. So what do you do? What were you doing for 700 hours there? What were you practicing?
Scratching.
Just scratching.
Beat juggling, scratching.
So that all is your thing. That's
you it's not the knobs and the fist pumping. It's real scratching and beat juggling, and it's an instrument. I mean, and you think about a percussionist. It's percussive. So being in a band with an artist, there's a period where I would cut, scratch, over 8 bars or 16 bars, just like a percussionist would play percussion. And so it adds that flavor that's hard to get. It adds a sort of grittiness and,
Right. Listening to me is concussive, so I could understand.
Concussive, right.
Yeah. So it's a little similar. Okay, so how did you jump from being a DJ to starting up businesses?
So I started my first company senior year in college. It wasn't they were happening in parallel, these kinds of things. DJing was for me it was what a kid would do when he's enterprising, So it wasn't jumping from this to the other. It was I started working when I was 16, in nightclubs and things like that. And then then I went to college and in senior year wrote a business plan for my first company, and that was. But I did DJ, for part of the years where I was working. So I would work from 8 till 8. And then from 10 to 4 in the morning, I would be on the turntables and I would sleep never. And by the way, that's, working 16, 18 hours a day, that's part of the gig. I always hear about this sort of entrepreneurial thing, and
right.
you know, it was like no, like you're gonna kill yourself, and that's part of the thing, and be prepared for that.
Yeah, I'm also familiar with that.
Yeah, I know.
Now, look, I want to ask you about that first business, but for you guys who haven't heard of Noah, he's top 30 under 30 in Billboard magazine. Fast Company named him an innovation agent. Adweek's top 20 under 40, and the list goes on and on. So what was the first business?
The first business was the first hip hop one-stop shop on the web. So it was like at a time where if you weren't in New York, Chicago, LA, maybe San Francisco, you couldn't get anything in hip hop culture. So we said, let's deliver all of this through the web, and it was during the .com era. And that, you know, that was like cutting my teeth in entrepreneurialism. Like I'm 21, I'm 20, you know, getting into 22, raise some money, start this thing, have an office, hire people, do everything wrong you could possibly do. And that for me, that was MBA. You know, on the streets.
Yeah, and I've been there too, making all the mistakes, etc.
Yeah.
So now, did you start Noisy for Vice?
So I had an agency called Noise. This is where it gets a little confusing. That was the third or second company. And we were a product development and marketing agency that focused on the young adult market, but we worked with everyone from Facebook and Vice to Chase, Intel, GE, probably 100 to 200 companies. So we did work with Vice to build Noisy, the first version of Noisy. Which was interesting, yeah. Yeah,
okay, because like you have, I keep obsessing about it because you have like the resume of an 80-year-old. But all right, one last one before we go to Acorns. You were the first chief strategy and marketing officer for WeWork?
Yeah.
And how long ago was that?
That was 2000, that was the beginning, so 2013, there were 2 buildings, you know, and then so an old friend of mine had started it. I sold my agency and I was at the end of the contract with the company that acquired us. And Adam Newman, who was one of the co-founder, and I had known each other for a long time, and we had talked all the way along, like while he was starting it, about, you know, working together and also building a digital version of WeWork and bringing people together online, and you know how all this community things happen. And he came to me toward the end of the thing, and he was like, "You should join. You know, you should join us." And I did. I mean, I believe there's things I care about deeply, and I sort of hit a point at like 32 where I said creating things and building is and the fun part is not enough anymore. Like I want to have an impact. And I felt like WeWork, which is basically a platform for entrepreneurs. You know, we call it a community for creators, but it's really about helping entrepreneurs. I felt like that was a noble pursuit, you know. So that was really early. It was early on. It was literally 2 buildings.
When he first told you about it, were you like, "Oh, this is going to work," or were you like, "Ah, let's give it a shot"?
He had such a kind of tenacious vision for it. I mean, I was in so this was before I got involved, but I was sitting with him when they had 1 floor in Soho, and when he got his first check, his first investment, and we were sitting there, it was me and him and his wife, Rebecca, and his co-founder actually, and they got their first check, and they had such a vision for it. And it wasn't just like building WeWork around entrepreneurialism. It was the concept of community in the world, you know, going into different categories and building community, which is We Live, you know, in fitness, all this stuff. How does community bring people together in all these categories? So there was such a big vision that I felt like, you know, this kind of has to happen. It also felt like the next, like we were in that sort of I generation from Apple.
Right.
And so the movement to a we generation, you know, felt like what was going to happen. Yeah.
Were you the genius who came up with the idea of free coffee at WeWork Spaces?
I was not.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I think it's a fairly normal idea, but I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
And we, Young Turks, use a couple of offices, and so
it's a good product.
That's right. That's right. So now at the end, I want to get to more of the secrets to success. Like, okay, so hard work is clearly one of them.
Yeah,
we talked about that. I want to talk about a couple more, but let's go on to Acorns. So what is Acorns?
So we started as a micro investing app, which is the thing that it's best known for is you connect your bank account, you connect your credit and debit cards, and every time you make a purchase, we round up the purchase to the nearest dollar and invest a spare change for you. So like if you go to Starbucks and you buy a cappuccino for $3.50 or whatever, I don't know what we round it up to 4, and we take the 50 cents and we put it into a diversified portfolio for you. That was how we started.
So that almost sounds like a charity for yourself, which is what we need.
It
right?
is. It is.
Especially in these times.
Yeah. I mean, we're trying to build the first financial wellness brand overall. Like the vision for Acorns is to build a financial wellness system that enables everyday Americans to save and invest every day. So we started with spare change, and it's like the thing that's powerful about that is it's this thing everybody has, and you can relate to it. You have it in your pocket, you have it in your cup holder, in your car, in your couch. So everybody has it, and you don't really feel it because it's just a little extra when you're buying your cup of coffee or buying your lunch or whatever. And that was where we began, and then from there, we've gone into a lot of other areas of financial services. But everything we're doing comes back to how do we help you save and invest more for a better future, and really focused on everyday Americans. And you think about the financial services industry, it's really focused on people who have a lot of money. And there hasn't really been, at least as far as I'm concerned, a financial institution built from the ground up for everyday Americans, which is most Americans.
Yeah.
You know, like my parent, right? Like looking after their best interests. And
yeah, there's not a lot of Rockefellers who are worried about the 37 cents extra that, so it's almost by definition for the average American, right?
Right.
So of course the main question people ask is, oh, come on, does that really add up though, the 37 cents at a time?
It's a good question. Actually, it adds up to $32 a month. But that's the beginning.
On average.
On average, just the roundups. But that's the beginning. So the next step is to do an automated recurring investment. So you can add another $5 a day. And it's just totally automated. It happens in the background. You can make a one-time investment when you have extra money on the side. You can set up an Acorns Later, which is a retirement account, and you can contribute regularly. So it does add up if you commit to it. It really does add up. And the thing about small change or extra amounts of money is the key there, and Warren Buffett talks about this all the time, is compounding.
Right.
So if you start early, start at 18, 19, 20, and you really commit to doing $5 a day, by 65 or 60, you really can have over $1 million with interest rates and things like that. But it's a simple way to just set yourself up for a better life later on.
Right, and yeah, it is the magic of compounding interest, and so whenever anybody sees how much interest piles up, they're always amazed by it. Yeah. They're like, and so if all you do is save the change, it's still way better off than not doing it.
Yeah.
So, well, then let me give you a plug. How do you do it? What's the app, or what do you do?
But by the way, so to that point, we do every year we do a research report called the Money Matters Report. Last year, 25% of Americans, or millennials specifically, didn't save a dime, and 50% didn't invest anything. So getting started is the key, and it's so easy with Acorns. It's like 5 minutes to get started. So we have it's an iOS app, it's an Android app, and there's a web app. You can choose.
So you make the purchases through the app, and the app automatically puts the change into your account.
No, you connect your bank account, you link your cards, and then we see what you're purchasing, and then we round up the purchase in nearest dollar and actually pull the money from your bank account into Acorns. So it doesn't. So for instance, if you're using your credit card, it doesn't increase your credit card bill. We pull it right from your bank account.
Okay, so you connect the credit cards and bank account to the app.
Yeah.
Right, so then it does it automatically, and you don't have to do anything extra at the point of purchase.
No, you don't have to do anything extra, and you really don't feel it. I mean that's why it's so important. Like we're all bad at this. Just everybody is basically bad at it. And
you might be surprised at how bad I am at it. But
well, I was too. I mean, I'm so it's like it's really helpful to have something that does it for you. And where you don't feel it, because we all need money to live and stuff like this. So it's just a little bit. But
so I'm curious, how many people have done this so far?
3.8 million.
In the
U.S.
3.8 million people have already signed up.
Yeah.
Are you doing a ton of ads? I think I asked you this before when we first met.
We do some. I mean, it's honestly, like our perspective is let's get as many people using this as possible because it's good for people. But most of it's word of mouth, and I feel like I feel like a real evangelist for this because I know how good it is. So it is a business, and we are building a business, and we have a business model. But like I wish I had Acorns when I was 18, 19, 20.
Right.
I wish my parents did too.
So let's go back to the millennials and how they don't save. No, like that to me that makes sense because they don't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right. It's just So I remember two guests in particular that I had. One is Layne Easton. She was running for governor, and she talked about how she bought a house in Northern California for what was it, $35,000, and it's now worth $1.5 million. Right. She put down a down payment of $90.
Right.
Right.
That's a down payment of $90.
That's right. And Ray Dalio, the hedge fund manager, in how they bought a house. His dad was a jazz musician, and they bought a house in Long Island.
Yeah.
There ain't no jazz musicians buying houses in Long Island now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There ain't no $90 down payments for houses now.
Yeah.
So is it fundamentally different for this generation than it was for the older generations?
Fundamentally different, and it's a tough time. I mean, you know, so in terms of real estate and ownership, that's lower than it was for generations past. Payments on mortgages later than they were in the past. The amount of debt people graduate with is way, you know, I think something like, I think they did this study last year, but the average person is graduating with $35,000 in debt, and then there's credit card debt, and then there's spending habits. So people today are spending more and wages are flat, if not down. So it's a really difficult time for people, and especially young people. And unemployment, by the way, unemployment, you know, I mean, you saw the unemployment rate today is at 3.9.
3.9.
But for millennials, it's up, I think it's 15% or upwards. So it's a very difficult situation. And a lot of them aren't saving, saving and investing for later on in life. And by the way, you don't have the safety nets of pensions and Social Security and things. At least there's the feeling that that's not going to be there. So it's a very tough time. So the thing is, you kind of need to take it upon yourself to start setting yourself up for later.
You know, people say something, they're worried that Social Security might not be there, and I get that, and it's a legitimate fear. But if the government decides to take away Social Security, there's going to be pitchforks in this country.
There is.
Yeah, that's not going to. I mean, that's not going to happen without a fight.
Yeah.
But you know, you said something in there that really struck a nerve with me, and was kind of enlightening. Yeah, we always talk about student debt on the Young Turks, and that's a huge issue.
Yeah.
But you know, and I know that their millennials are not saving enough. But when you connect the two, of course, how would they save? They already owe, right?
Yeah.
They owe so much.
Yeah.
Like the previous generations had the GI Bill, and it just didn't cost as much to get an education.
Yeah.
So with that albatross hanging over your neck, I mean, does it even make? Look, like, I'm gonna keep it real. Does it even make sense to invest if you're paying interest on the money you owe?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Of course, I see what you're saying. We take the position that it makes sense to put some spare change aside for later. But you should be paying down your debt, and you should be focused on paying down your debt. And by the way, we're going to get into that. We'll be in every area of financial services, because again, everything you do in your financial life, how much you've borrowed, how much debt you have, all those things comes back to how well you save and invest. But you should. I mean, you should be doing a little bit, I think.
Yeah, and I get maybe that's why Acorns is taken off, because like it's so hard to put away money in savings when you got to pay down the debt and you're not making that much in the first place. But the change, you can do the change. It's a good start.
But by the way, also, so we have partnerships with 250 plus brands today. Some of them are loan refinancing brands. And the beauty of Acorns is when we partner with a company that does loan refinancing, so you can cut it in half through this company. They also invest $100 into your Acorns account as a reward for signing up.
Oh, so that's nice.
Yeah, so we've got also all these partnerships that help with these different issues. So there are benefits like that, you know, like that. Also, we partner with like everyone from Nike to Apple to Zappos to Airbnb, everybody. So wherever you're spending, if you're an Acorns customer and you spend with those companies, they invest into your Acorns account as a reward for shopping. So we're trying to help you also earn extra money, and that's actually is a big focus for us, because the number one reason people don't save and invest enough is because they don't earn enough. When you think about the financial services industry at large, and this was like one of those light bulb moments for me, the one thing they don't help with is income. Like your bank doesn't help you with your income. I mean, you know,
right.
So we're again getting back to how do you help save and invest. One of the ways is to help you earn some extra money. One of the ways to do that is to help you earn some extra money from all these places you shop. You know, even though we say don't overspend, obviously, but if you're gonna spend, if you're gonna buy something from Nike, Nike's gonna invest 5% of the purchase into your Acorns account.
Well, that's smart. That makes sense for everybody. So now back to keys to success. Obviously, you've been successful in a bunch of these ventures that you've been involved in, very diverse, different things from DJing to business. So work super hard, I got that. What else?
Curiosity. being open, listening, being aware of everything happening. I think that's fundamental. I say that to everyone in the company. Curiosity is to me is hugely important. Connections, it goes. I mean, I always encourage people to network, just because the more people you know, we can get something done in a month or in a day that would take someone a month because they don't have the relationship. So just constantly trying to work on building that network.
Yeah, I mean, just pause for a second. So when I was in law school, we had a guy who was a little bit older than us, in his 40s, who would come back to law school. He's a really good guy, and he'd go around telling everybody, whatever you do, meet everyone here. Don't worry about your classes, okay? Just meet everyone, because these guys will run things, and you're going to need them later. And we were too young, and we're like, Jerry, get out of here. Right? We're going to go play basketball. We're going to have some beers, etc. And he was totally right. Half those guys are CEOs somewhere, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was for me. That was the biggest benefit of college. Is like all these people I know. I had the good fortune to go to Cornell, which is a good school, and like everybody I'm friends with from there is doing it.
Cornell. Didn't Ann Coulter go to Cornell? Did you meet her there?
I didn't meet her there. No.
I think Bill Maher, Keith Olbermann, a lot of talk show hosts went to Cornell.
Yeah. A lot of so my friends are like, so you have that net. So I always say networking and connecting with people. Those to me are the key things. I also think having courage. I love the word courage. Is like standing up for what you believe and going after it and getting it and not backing down. I think that's really. I think like everyone doesn't need to be an entrepreneur. This whole kind of obsession with that is weird to me. But having courage in your convictions. And going after the things you care about. Maybe that's your number 2 or number 3 in a company, whatever it is. But have courage. I think.
All right, it's a good way to sign off to. As Dan Rather used to do at the end of his newscasts, he'd just say courage. The broadcast. So Noah Kerner, CEO of Acorns, acorns.com. Check it out. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
All right, absolutely. If you like the interview that you just watched, I got great news for you. If you become a Young Turks member, you can watch them live as they happen. Only the members get that. You also get Young Turks live. You also get Aggressive Progressive live and Old School live. Everything is available for the members and commercial free. tytnetwork.com/join.